first Today we're going to be talking about journey of loneliness and how it shapes our skills of making decisions and adapting to the changes of everything else. This is my first time making a video, so I'm really nervous right now. I struggle to make many takes, whatever the fuck, I don't know how they say, anyways. And maybe right now. I'm at the fucking jungle just because. Such a vibe over here. I try to come to like the most isolated place because I'm so awkward and I'm so nervous about like making a video outside. I can't do this. Look at my fucking tripod. It's this tree branch right here. It's holding my phone and my other phone where I fucking read. So, loneliness is defined as dissonance of one's current social connections and the desires to feel connected and fulfilled with those people and those social moments. This is the mental state that someone lives with when they find themselves inside of various stages of their lives, such as loss, feelings of failure, derealization, or insatisfaction. Such type of day-to-day living results very painful to the ones in a state of loneliness. They create a perception where they feel like they're not doing things right or that they're being let down by the people around them. For example, feeling isolated, even in a crowd, or struggling to make or maintain friendships, or withdrawing from social activities. Those are some examples of loneliness expressing itself. In the 1973 book by Robert S. Loneliness, the experience of emotional and social isolation, he defined loneliness as existing in two different types: social loneliness and emotional loneliness. Social loneliness refers to the perceived presence and absence of people in your life who serve as a nurturing confidant and who affirm your existence, where you seek an acceptable social connection with them. And emotional loneliness is the perceived absence of quality in your closest connections. Based on Robert's view that both types of loneliness have to be examined independently, because the satisfaction for the need of emotional loneliness cannot act as a counterbalance for social loneliness. People working to treat or better understand loneliness have tended to treat these types of loneliness separately, though this is far from always the case, given that the emotions that drive these lonely perceptions will then also influence your social desires, unless there's a very specific exception. To be alone is not the same thing as experiencing loneliness, as someone can feel content with their current life and therefore do not feel any rejection or unwanted feelings during the time that they're alone. Whereas people suffering from loneliness who feel disconnected from their environment, even in places full of people they know, from the perspective that their persona does not match whatever social desires they want to achieve. Quote, "Solitude is the state of being alone without being lonely. Solitude suggests peacefulness stemming from a state of inner richness. It is a means of enjoying the quiet and whatever it brings that is satisfying and from which we draw sustenance. It is something that we cultivate. Solitude is refreshing, an opportunity to renew ourselves. In other words, it replenishes us. Solitude restores the body and mind. Loneliness depletes them." Oh my god. I am dying out here, man. Like, my eyes hurt so much. I've been outside for like 2 hours trying to search for the spot where I can film. And the mosquitos are fucking killing me. The sunlight is like hurting my eyes too. But anyways, let's continue. When you reach a point within yourself where it is crucial to make one or multiple important decisions, and you struggle to choose what you plan to be the best outcome for those presented situations, it is possible for some tasks to go unsolved or completely forgotten during the time where you're pressured to figure it out and maybe feel like you can't. And this becomes a major issue inside someone's lonely self-perception, living with an altered perception of looking at everyone's way of thinking as well as their own through a a lens with issues such as a lack of meaning in their goals or desires, and unappreciation of these, in a sense of exclusion that leads an individual to think it belongs into a hierarchical position of superiority or inferiority. I can't fucking pronounce it. For example, somebody who is a victim of abuse, depending on what they get out of that, they have a higher chance of living in more toxic and abusive environments in their future if they don't learn to heal and recognize those abusive behaviors. In a 2022 study about the effective neuroscience of loneliness by the National Institutes of Health, suggests that loneliness impacts an estimated 25 to 50% of the US population at a given time, and older adults may particularly be at risk, with 1 out of 3 individuals over age 45 report feeling lonely, rising out 1 out of 2 individuals of over 45 with low income. And additionally, these thoughts are driven with possible symptoms like depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and also derealization. I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna have to lay down on something. Diving into an introspection where you try to analyze the construction of your thoughts through your own concepts of necessities, desires, and goals can be a part of the journey that either breaks you or builds you. As this experience gets taken within a path of emotionally driven goals, of which in one way or another get met with obstacles that give you difficulties to complete tasks or do them correctly. And in between these moments, one's own perceptions of everything will try to survive based on what the mind is being fed, with both your logical premises being built on the current outside reality that you face in present and the desired results of your improvement-driven work to achieve them also being a source for that sort of adaptation. Therefore, in the midst of facing changes of environment, it leads challenges like misunderstanding the steps of self-improvement or going through the process of learning to take a new direction in life. Quote, loneliness is a problem of decision making. Being around other people, whether in a social or work setting, comes with many supports through our decision making process. In an idealized process of decision making, each time the question, what's next, pops up, we imagine a menu of options. We choose one of them, and then we go through a psychological process of committing to it. This leads to activity, and both within that activity and after it, we repeat this algorithm many more times. End of quote. Therefore, it is a possibility to change the previous trajectory and perception of purpose in your decisions. And that could be a subtle change in how you might prefer to do or have certain things from that point on, as well as taking a full turn on the paths that you once decided to incorporate through your time living, short or long term. And this happens based on how those concepts are being presented to you in the unique way that you might live them, and that combined with how you perceive them and what point of importance that has for you. For example, you might have a big passion for something, and you could either have little to lots of talent on that, as well as also having skills in other things that maybe you're not very passionate about. And with time, as you get older, you might fall out of love with one of more things that maybe at some point you thought you would always love, as well as developing a bigger passion or interest in things that previously you didn't care about at all. In a 2007 study from Cornell University by Amanda Chu, a researcher investigated the relationships between loneliness and emotional, physical, and cognitive well-being in young and older adulthood. Self-report questionnaires were administered to 101 young and 95 older adults, and they defined it as, quote, the core of loneliness is the sense of social deficiency. For example, it has been shown that lonely individuals did not differ from non-lonely individuals in attractiveness, wealth, or intelligence, but still experience loneliness. Greater pessimism, shyness, negative affect, anxiety, and fear of rejection. Thus, perception is central to the feelings of loneliness and making it a fundamentally psychological concept. End of quote. As you go on with carrying tasks in your life and putting up to an expectation of the things you're longing for, you will shift your focus on working the ways to your success by surviving in society and trying to make your best stance within it. So when you find yourself taking the responsibility of those most important decisions, it becomes a requirement for one to go through a journey of self-exploring and discover the needs that your future should meet in order to escape the loneliness that torments your thoughts and free yourself from it. For Freud, the concept of loneliness in mankind was an inborn stage. For Erich Fromm, it was culturally created. Freud said that the conflict of instinctual drives means that human beings are all born into a sense of loss and abandonment that can only be improved through a psychoanalytic exploration of yourself. Despite the different ideas of how humans are lonely beings, the common thing with those two is how it seems that the environment that humans find themselves in does in fact determine such important influences in their decisions. Quote, "The condition of loneliness is quintessentially individual. Its diagnosis is based on individual perceptions with treatment based on specific symptoms. Yet, like so many contemporary public health issues, loneliness is impacted by broader structural, cultural, socioeconomic, and political circumstances." End of quote. So, even though a major point in shifting away from loneliness and feeling lost is in being able to have a life met with your needs and reaching self-adjusted progress, it does not happen by simply following the written laws and your parental influence or environmental-based aspirations. And while someone can totally be happy with living by that stuff, it still becomes an issue when these people do not learn the impact of their behavior, as the actions of everyone given to a situational consequence regardless. It can be not important to everyone who knows it, and it can be a big or important matter to some or still not important to others, even when it's a huge situation. Quote, "Decision making is crucial to the political process. It is a process that must take into account the interests of various groups, personal beliefs, and values, as well as obligations and standards. Moreover, decision making has many challenges, including ignorance or legal constraints. Given the complexity of making political decisions, more and more research focuses on methods and techniques that help political leaders make evidence-based decisions. One such method is the evidence-based approach, which involves using evidence and scientific research to support decision-making. In addition, it is important to remember that political decisions have consequences for society and every individual. So it is vital to ensure public involvement in the decision-making process and allow the public to express their views and opinions freely. It can be achieved through the participation of public organizations, consultations with experts, and conducting public debates." End of quote. It's not a forward-thinking behavior to not analyze or at least care to question the roots of every invention or present environment and past anecdotes, as these are everything that make our lives. And when we don't learn to adapt and control the changes, it can lead to a regressive thinking or a bias for, quote, "traditional values," which are a part of everyone's way of being. However, when you step out of simply sticking to the personal traditions that have made your life in a time or place where it doesn't match, that turns into a division or conflict due to the clash of values that a collective of people, or even a clash of knowledge against an environment where you also don't match with most or any of the decisions that require you to act based on your bias and knowledge. And this is how history has directly driven politics and causes changes with time. Because even though many societies will have the same issues and values that they've always had, the new times always bring in skepticism of the traditional life. It's the same societal moment repeating itself in different periods of time. Quote, "The literature shows that the political elite are prone to use heuristics such as being more sensitive to losses than gains, also known as prospect theory, status quo bias, overconfidence, leading to poor decision making, which when combined with escalation of commitment could help explain why once having made a poor decision, the elite are also prone to doubling down on previous commitments and stereotyping, to name a few." There are 7 factors that influence the political elite in using heuristics. Number 1, experience. The greater the experience, the more effective use of heuristics. Number 2, context. greater experience in similar contexts appears to allow the more experienced to get an acceptable outcome more quickly than those with less experience. Number 3, complexity. More complex issues are associated with the greater use of heuristics. Number 4, urgency. The greater the urgency, the more likely the use of heuristics. Number 5, self-interest. For example, gaining or remaining in office. Number 6, ideology. Political ideology such as conservatism or socialism can be used as a heuristic. Number 7, emotion. For example, the British Prime Minister Herbert Asquith's decisions to enter World War I was thought to have been influenced by anger and fear. End of quote. Regardless of your economical status or power, everybody's emotions and personalities are highly dependent on the possibilities of the future that they can think about, and whether those are true or not. When you imagine a future where certain things can happen and others can't, that requires certain political and societal actions that create those ideas and or push them to reality, even if you're not aware of what they are or why you want those. Quote, decision-making in politics is a complex and multifaceted process that depends on various factors, including political guidelines, democratic standards, economic, social, and cultural factors, the involvement of experts, and the powers of different branches of government. It is important to remember the need for continuous monitoring and corrections in decisions made to ensure the effectiveness and relevance. End of quote. The progress of your life shapes your way of being, and if you are what you feed your mind, then it's important for you to find a safe place in your behavior where you can always question your actions and take feedback from your past. Finding a purpose isn't just to find the exact needs for you and to immediately complete them and have your expectations fulfilled. You will very likely not be able to have a happy life by acting in a passive behavior where you just flow with whatever you're presented with, even though you can find joy in it, but you can only live better once you start to go through the journey of self-analysis and try your best to come to peace with your environment in order to find a purpose to stand for. Quote, the philosophy of happiness explores the nature of happiness and how to achieve it. Philosophers like Aristotle believe true happiness, eudaimonia, comes from living a life of virtue and striving towards one's highest potential rather than seeking short-term pleasures. There is no amount of maximum perfection that you can ever achieve. But the moments of happiness and grief are what give you the motivation and mindset to create a vision for what you think is not the life you deserve to have. And with this slightest misunderstanding of your emotions, or a lack of self-awareness, and maybe also a poor control of tough situations, it can lead to a much tougher future with some of the problems which were rooted from that conflicted past, run the risk of standing in blurred lines from its original way of coming to be. That, of course, is a thing everyone does, but it is still incredibly important to have a deeper analyzing into your everyday actions just to form a more empathetic view, even when certain things feel like they don't matter at all. Quote, perhaps the most important reason to have true happiness in life is that it is linked to longevity. True happiness is a significant predictor of a longer, healthier life. It is also associated with a sense of fulfillment, plus a feeling of achievement that is attained through actively striving for and making progress towards valuable goals. End of quote. The story always seems to be the same. You fall into a pit of darkness and get met with struggle in the way of taking decisions, and also go through multiple times of pain and sadness. However, when you take those decisions and keep going forward with everything, a responsibility that comes with decision is change. And the change is not to take everything for granted, but still take the responsibility to learn to handle challenges that seem to be important enough to help you find the answers you need to achieve peace and better knowledge. Quote, although the response to loneliness resembles the biological response to other chronic stressors, the perceived social context is posited to additionally trigger an effective bias focused on self-preservation, with enhanced sensitivity to social threat and increased motivation to restore social connection. This bias is theorized to result in a vicious cycle stemming from dysregulated affective responding, whereby lonely individuals are more likely to interpret ambiguous social information negatively, resulting in behaviors and cognitions that undermine social connections and increase the feelings of loneliness. End of quote. It takes the journey of becoming a conscious being to understand what problems you had and what you needed in order to make a good amount of process until you have enough to live a worthy life. When everything feels like it has no solution or you feel like you can never be enough, there's something out there that is steering your stability, and you might not always know what it is. So you must be ready to understand beyond the simple emotions that show you one or few things that seem to be to blame for, and instead dive into the roots of why everything has come to the way it is, and how the written history of all can be misleading or forgotten. So in all cases possible, we must develop a mature set of emotions that allow us to fight for the better future. Anyways, that is the whole video. Let me know how I did. I think I talked way too fast. My legs is so fucking... Wait though, look at this place. It's so fucking awesome though. Like honestly, I reconnected with nature over here. I'm so done, dude. Love y'all. Hope I make another one, because if I don't, it's because it flopped or because I can't do this anymore. This is just not my job. I'm just doing this because it's easy and mosquitos. Because I don't want to work. I stuttered so much. I had to cut out so many scenes. Anyways, love y'all.